Good question indeed. All right, so to our first big story. Now, ahead of Saturday's rerun legislative elections in Rivers State, politicians have been speaking on their level of preparedness and expectations from the electoral umpire.
The People's Democratic Party, that's the PDP, and the All Progressives Congress, APC, have expressed optimism that the political pendulum will swing in their favor in spite of some reservations. Our correspondent Edmond Awaji tells us more.
The political temperature in Rivers State is gradually but steadily being charged ahead of Saturday's legislative rerun. Their winning optimism notwithstanding, the governing PDP is worried that the opposition APC is not campaigning because of its alleged plans to rig. But the opposition APC says the allegation is all tissues of lies. According to the party, the PDP is only being scared of what it described as an impending defeat.
We as a people have resolved to say that nobody will rig election in Rivers State, in any of the constituency, in any of the polling units, in any of the wards that the election will hold.
The candidates are campaigning, and I'm sure on Wednesday you will see us summarize or conclude that campaign in a grand style. Otherwise, I don't know why anybody would begin to think that we are not campaigning. Why are we in the race?
There is this worrisome trend where many of the smaller political parties in the state are not fielding candidates in the rerun. Though they are hopeful that the electoral process will be peaceful, they want INEC to be neutral.
INEC should play its part, not take side. Because if the election is credible, it's to their own credit. And if it brings a catastrophe, it's to their own disadvantage.
INEC Rivers State must do what they took oath to do in making sure that the electorate's vote counts without them allocating numbers of votes for whichever political parties they are in sympathy with.
But this candidate of Labour Party has expressed reservations about the tense political atmosphere already being created by the comments of some frontline political actors in the state.
We actually worry with the level of campaign that have characterized with intimidations, harassment, and threats. And it appeared that the election were beginning to be centered on the level of harassment that will be as well be made by other political parties, or being determined by level of violence. Although the Labour Party is not also comfortable with the comments by the Executive Governor of Rivers State, of the PDP, and on the APC with the level of trading of cautions of statements.
As the day is closing on Saturday, the expectations of those who wish the state and its people well is that political parties, their candidates and members will play the game of politics according to the rules.
Yes, indeed. Will these political gladiators play according to the rules? That will be left to be seen by Saturday when the election does hold finally. We are expecting our correspondent right there in Port Harcourt, Uche Okoro, to give us, an idea of what is going on there in Port Harcourt. How are the people of Rivers State preparing for this? Now, Uche Okoro, good morning to you. And yes, now tell us exactly what the mood is to this build-up, and so much seems to be riding on the back of INEC. All the different parties seem to be putting the responsibility right at the doorstep of INEC to ensure that this election comes and goes free, fair, and credible.
Good morning to you, Ngozi. I'll take your question from the bottom of it right there. You're correct when you say that the people of Rivers State are putting the bulk of the work or the responsibility at the foot of INEC, because people haven't forgotten in a hurry what recently happened in Edo State, and people also haven't, of course, forgotten what happened recently in Ondo State. So they are saying if INEC can perform these miracles, in quotes, in Edo State and Ondo State, what makes Rivers State an impossible situation? Of course, you recall that in Ondo State they had some issues in the build-up to the elections, and by way of protest and so on. Same thing happened in Edo State. But at the end of the day, these elections came and went peacefully. So they are saying no matter the level of disturbances that the Rivers people are putting up, that the political scene is experiencing, INEC should be able to surmount these challenges and still exercise enough will to get this done and dusted. So at the end of the day, everybody, all fingers are pointing to INEC, all eyes are looking up to INEC, to do what the Commission has proven capable of doing, as they did recently in Edo and Ondo State. But in terms of the mood in the state, it's one of uneasy calm. I wouldn't say there is a full-blown tension like there was in the build-up to July the 30th, which didn't materialize. I wouldn't say there's so much tension amongst the people in the build-up to October, which didn't materialize. Also, I wouldn't say there's so much worry amongst the populace and the electorate in the build-up to March the 19th, which ended up resulting in a rerun. This time around, there seems to be this calm. People just seem to have, there's a lot more sense of relaxation and calm in the air amongst the populace. There is not that much tension, except, of course, amongst the political class. So, based on that, I'll say the Rivers people are ready to exercise their franchise come Saturday.
All right. Is this calm attributed to the readiness of the security personnel to be on ground for the election?
I wouldn't say so, though the IG has come out to promised to deploy a 20,000 strong force to Rivers State, that's comprising air support and so on, marine police and so on. But right now, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that on the ground. That remains in that promise, or that deployment remains in theory. We are yet to begin to experience that in practice by way of seeing these men on the ground. So I don't think that calm is as a result of what we're seeing from the police. We are yet to see that deployment materialize physically on the ground. Hopefully, there are speculations that we'll begin to see that evidence of that deployment, say from Thursday, Friday, late Friday. I think things might begin to change on the ground by way of the presence of security personnel on ground. So I just think people just seem to be more relaxed. There's been a lot more assurances coming from INEC. Of course, there's been a lot more assurances coming from the police. So I think based on those assurances and the fact that people are beginning to suspect that the politicians themselves are getting tired of the back and forth. So I think that sense of tiredness on the part of the politicians that the people are suspecting has given them that sense of relaxation that December the 10th might just be a different story, but you never know. But generally, there is not that much tension, like I said, in the air compared to the days we've had this year.
All right, Uche Okoro, just stay with us as we go on a very quick break and return to discuss more on the Rivers rerun election slated for December 10. But for our viewers on TVC Entertainment, you can continue to watch the show on TVC Nigerian Concert Channel 190, DSTV 418.
Go TV 45 and ACTV 510. We'll be back in a jiffy.
Right, you're welcome back. Uche Okoro, our correspondent, is on the ground in Rivers State looking at preparations to the December 10 rerun elections in Rivers State. Of course, we're expecting PDP PRO Samuel Wanosike to join us and look at their own perspective as we build up to the election. Of course, we had the APC representative here yesterday on the show. Okay, so Uche, now let's still talk about security concerns a little more. INEC consistently over time in postponing the election so far, I think 5 or 6 times I've lost count, has always insisted that the security situation does not allow for conclusion of this election. From a reporter's point of view, would you say that there is really no cause for alarm, especially when you hear Rivers State Governor himself, Wike, say that there is no reason for this election to be postponed. If you could have elections in a place like Borno State and the Northeast generally, why not in Rivers?
Well, because you would, it's a very tricky situation in Rivers State. Hence, the response to your question is a bit dicey, I would say, in Rivers State. But in the state, I think that the assessment, a most objective assessment of the security situation in Rivers State, will be left to the security agencies. But INEC in Rivers State has repeatedly said the reason why they've been unable to conduct and conclude the elections in Rivers State is because they have not been given a conducive environment. Interpreting that conducive environment means the security situation hasn't allowed them to conclude this election. So whether what I think or what the governor thinks or what anybody else thinks may not be so important, because INEC has come out to say, yes, security situation in Rivers State has been largely responsible for what we are experiencing. But the resident electoral commissioner in Rivers State, the latest words, comments coming from him, is that they are confident so far in the build-up to December the 10th, that they are confident so far that the Rivers State Police Command or the police authorities generally have done enough. They are saying, based on the assurances that they've received from the security agencies, the combination of the police, the armed forces and the DSS, that they are confident and comfortable that December the 10th will be peaceful. So if the comments of INEC, if we were to rely on the comments of the resident electoral commissioner in Rivers State, then I would say security situation is under control. So it all comes down to the security agencies now, because they've been having series of security meetings, both those open to the press and those, of course, that have been closed-door meetings. So we want to believe that these meetings would translate into what we're all expecting would be a very peaceful conduct of the elections. But no doubt, the security situation in the state, according to INEC, has been responsible for what we've experienced so far, rather than the non-performance of the commission.
All right, let's talk about voters' apathy. In Lagos, by-election was conducted last week in Ifako-Jai, and the report we got was there was a very low turnout. So really, the calmness you described in Port Harcourt, I hope it won't translate to a scanty voters coming out to vote this Saturday.
Well, I wouldn't say that would. The point is, if we had these elections, if we had these elections in October, July the 30th, October deadline, which was given by INEC, and now December the 10th, coming from March the 19th, the level of participation is dropping. The number of persons who participate in these elections seems to be dropping by the day. So while I would be more inclined to saying that the level of participation by way of the number of voters who are expected to participate in the polls may drop, but in the end, we might not experience apathy, because we are expecting a total number of 927,769 persons, registered voters, to participate in the rerun. And that's reflecting 37% of the total number of votes in Rivers State. So if we have, the situation in Lagos State, which you talked about, obviously they wouldn't have had up to this figure of voters. So apathy from that by-election, may not have come as a surprise. But in Rivers State here, where you have 927,769 persons who are registered voters, that is, who are expected to participate in this election, I doubt if apathy is not likely to play out. What is more likely to play out is that of that figure, we are likely to experience a drop in the expected number of persons who would actually participate.
Okay, Uche, well, you have painted a picture for us. You don't think that there will be a voter apathy. Would you say then, with all these accusations and counter-accusations coming from both sides, the APC and the PDP, that they have actually been able to sell their ideologies or whatever it is they're bringing to the table for the people of Rivers State to actually buy into either of the parties that are contending for the soul of this state?
Well, interesting questions there. For the people of for the voters in Rivers State, what they would be going out to do wouldn't be in a response to anything new, because the politicians have been campaigning over the months. They've been campaigning and campaigning and campaigning. Whenever there is a rerun, we hear the same set, either the same or fresh set of radio adverts and jingles and so on, and campaign messages. Campaign trains move around the state whenever we have these announcements of reruns and so on. But what the major reason or the major factor that will drive the electorate to the polls, to their various polling units in River State come December the 10th, would be the fact that people just want to get this over with. Okay, I think that will be the major driving and motivational factor that will move the electorate to the polls, rather than this renewed campaigns that the politicians have been doing in recent times. People just want to get this over with, especially the voters who are themselves direct indigents of River State, even though the authority, the current leadership of River State likes to say everybody who is resident here is an indigent, but those who are specifically of River State extraction, what would mostly be driving them to the polls would be to get this over with. It is almost becoming a stigma when you go outside River State and you say you're from River State. People tend to, these are vibes I am receiving from the people. People tend to look at you strange, like you're coming from outside the planet, like you're an alien, sort of. So what would mostly drive the electorate to the polls come Saturday? They want to contribute their quota to get this over with. People are actually tired at this point of going over the same issues.
Yeah.
All right, Uche, without being preemptive, but as a reporter, from what you can gather and what we get, some reports that we've gotten so far, that there's been some kind of developmental stride in River State due to Yinsa Wike's agenda, that perhaps that could help swing the vote in a particular direction. What do you think? Uche, are you there?
I lost you halfway.
Okay, there are speculations which we're not allowed to take, but there are reports that there's been some developmental stride in River State by the present governor, and that perhaps could swing the vote in a particular direction.
Well, that's not for me to say, but every government comes out with its plan and tries its best to execute the plan. The level to which the performance of these developmental strides you talk about, the level to which it would impact the elections, I think it remains to be seen. Really, it's not in my. My hands are tied, to be able to tag both scenarios together, but.
Okay, but of course we do understand that, Uche Okoro, your hands would really be tied in, giving us a clear. Okay, now let's even look at how it has affected the people of River State, that for how long now they have not had representation both at the center and of course the limited seats at the state assembly. Do they have a sense, of, that they have actually been cut out of the mainstream of governance and they have been the losers at the end of the day? That's a question on the one hand. Looking at this contest so far, do you think it's going to be a contest of egos, especially when you look at Wike and Amechi, who is Minister of Transportation? These two gentlemen seem to be at loggerheads, for want of a better word. Is it really a battle between the APC and the PDP, or these two individuals, or is it a battle of egos?
Well, when you say I think let's look at this. Let's look at it this way: a contest between the APC and the PDP. It is near impossible to separate that from a contest between the two personalities, because in quotes, the former governor of River State and the current Minister of Transportation is seen as the leader of the All Progressives Congress in River State, while the current governor of the state, Governor Nyesom Wike, is seen as the leader of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. So whenever these two parties are contesting at the ballot, it is interpreted to be a contest between these two personalities. So yes, but taking your question from the start, in Rivers State here, in terms of representation, yes, like I said earlier, they're in a hurry to get this over with so they can have adequate representation at the National Assembly. Prominent amongst the concerns of those who have been championing this agitation of poor representation is the fact that the 2016 budget came and went right through the National Assembly without comprehensive input from Rivers State. And now we are at the point of discussing the 2017 budget. There is already talk and of President Muhammadu Buhari making plans to submit the 2017 budget. So if we've gone through a whole fiscal year 2016 budget without adequate input from Rivers State.
All right, Uche Okoro, I will have to leave it there, but so many thanks for shedding more light on the situation there in Rivers State. Thank you very much, Uche Okoro. We'll take a very short break, and when we return, there are other issues to look at this morning on TVC Breakfast. Stay with us.